Welcome back to Your Fantasy Nerd, where today we'll be talking about the sleepers and undervalued picks. First things first, I'd like to point out that obviously it's just two of us here. The third person, Charlie Seidels, is out of town, so we'll be having him on phone call. You want to give him a quick hello?
What's up, guys? Here, couldn't make it today in person, but still glad to be giving you your fantasy information as we get ready for this upcoming season.
Absolutely.
In a few months.
Absolutely. So the first guy we'll talk about is actually for you, Charlie. It's Eli Manning. What do you like about him?
You know, I think I saw Eli Manning finish the year. I think his last 4 games he had 11 touchdowns and 1 interception. I think people are really undervaluing him just because of the past few years he has had a lot of picks. And I think he could have a tremendous season this year with the emergence of Odell Beckham, Victor Cruz returning to that lineup, that passing game. I think he could have a great year. For where people are rating him, I think he could be QB1 this league this year.
Absolutely. Next, I will talk about Ryan Tannehill.
I love Ryan Tannehill. I think he'll have a great year. He got a big contract this offseason. The team's improved all around. I think that him and Jarvis Landry are going to have a good connection this year. I think he had a great end of the year, and I think he could be a top 10 quarterback this year.
Absolutely. And then the final guy, I'm really high on him, the rookie Jameis Winston. The one thing about Jameis Winston is he's a really strong passer. He's got the ability to go deep, and I think that really plays well with his style in Tampa Bay. They've got really big receivers, Vincent Jackson, Mike Evans, Ferry Jenkins. I think they're all going to go out there and just be tall receivers for him. I can see him throwing 30-plus touchdowns this year, 4,000 yards. I think he can crack the top 10 at quarterback this season if he has a great season. I think he'll do it. Next guy we'll talk about, Carlos Hyde.
Frank Gore no longer on the 49ers means Carlos Hyde can become the #1 running back. And after watching Carlos Hyde in college, he is just going to be a beast in the NFL. He only played 10 games this last year at Ohio State, but if he played all 12, I think he would have won the Heisman Trophy. He is a bulldozer, and I think he will be a lone bright spot on the 49ers team. That's kind of in a weird place in their franchise, losing so many players from last year, but he will have a major year when it comes to fantasy production.
Yeah, he's a really big boomer bust candidate, so that's tough with him. The glory's great, but obviously the risk is very high, being that he might be the next Monty Ball. We never know. And then the next guy, LeGarrette Blount.
I love LeGarrette Blount. Every time he's been on the Patriots, he's never had the off-the-field issues. Every time he's been on the Patriots, he's performed well. I think he's a great player. He is suspended early in the season, but I think that shouldn't be a concern. I think you take him and just have him on your bench the first weeks when he's suspended, but I think he could be a great help to your team as a flex, maybe even RB2 because he puts up those numbers occasionally.
Absolutely, yeah. I love Blount this year. What were we saying?
Can I just interject one of the problems I have with Blount?
Go ahead.
And just any Patriots running back is that look at a guy like Jonas Gray last year. He had such a good week against Indianapolis. Did he even get a carry the next week? The inconsistency of the New England running back, I just like to stay away from that. But maybe Blount will have a good year and change that.
Yeah, I think actually the thing to add to Brett's point, I understand the problems with Blount, but I think seeing what Blount has done every single time, it's kind of getting almost expected that whenever he shows up there, he's the man. He's always been the man wherever it is. He's always been the RB1. He just kind of walks in there and becomes the man no matter what. So I think Blount's going to have a good season. And then the next guy we'll talk about, my probably favorite running back that's being undervalued, Jeremy Hill. Jeremy Hill is someone who I think is just going to fill that DeMarco Murray role that Dallas formed for him last year in Cincinnati. Jeremy Hill had 71 carries in the last 3 games. They're very run heavy. Andy Dalton is not the answer. Bring in AJ McCarron, that could actually benefit because
they should do it.
Yeah, they'll bring in the passing game will be much better. They'll be able to go pick play action pass, which will set up Jeremy Hill to have wide open lanes. So I really like Jeremy Hill this year. Obviously Bernard, but I think Bernard is there just to be the third down.
I also love Jeremy Hill. I know Settles likes Bernard better, or loves Bernard compared to Hill, but I think Hill's awesome. His end of the year stats are unbelievable, and I don't know how you can't like him.
Yeah.
One thing you have to realize is in this modern day NFL, you have to be able to catch passes.
Yeah, but if you love Carlos Hyde so much, they got Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush is going to catch the passes.
That's true. So there's always that third down
I know,
back.
I'm just saying, I don't think Jeremy Hill is a guaranteed first-round pick.
Yeah.
You know, boom, amazing.
See, I have him as a first-round pick.
I would take him in the first round, late first round.
Yeah, most people don't. I think I just think he'll have a good season. That's all. I think he could be a 10-plus touchdown. I think the touchdowns will really help him out too. And then the next guy we'll talk about, Latavius Murray. I know you like Murray.
Very short sample size, but you can see what he did in that one game he played. And he was a monster. Like, you saw him running, and he like couldn't get tackled. Honestly, one of the touchdowns he had was like a 60-plus yard touchdown, and I think he broke 3 or 4 tackles. It was unbelievable. The thing is, he did have a short sample size. I think Oakland will be better, and I think that if they're going to be better, they're going to need the running game to be strong.
Absolutely. And then the final running back we'll talk about, so Darren McFadden.
McFadden I just like because the offensive line has been running behind. He's been injured a lot in the past, but I think if he's able to hold it together injury-wise this year, which could be a struggle, he could be a great running back. I mean, he could be a top 20 back, just going behind the best offensive line in football. You see what DeMarco Murray did last year. I think that McFadden may not repeat that, but could put up great numbers just because they love to run the ball in Dallas behind the best offensive line in the league.
So do you like Darren McFadden better than Joseph Randle, I assume?
I personally do. I think McFadden's actually not
terrible.
that bad of a back. He's just had injury problems in the past.
Okay. He's probably a better talent. I just think it's whether or not he can stay on the field. So we both like Randall, but obviously he doesn't.
Dunbar could even be more productive than him.
Dunbar will be the third bound back. And now moving on to wide receivers. My personal favorite, Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks filling that #1 role this season. I think he could easily become a wide receiver 1 this year on your fantasy team. Don't draft him like one, but this guy's got the raw talent. He's got the speed. He's not the biggest receiver, but he's got that Antonio Brown-like shiftiness where he's just quick off defenders. He ran the fastest 40 time at his combine among wide receivers. This guy's just a beast. I think Jimmy Graham being gone, while some people may think it might actually hurt him because he's a touchdown threat and that actually he'll become more double covered a lot, I just think that it sets up more room for him to catch the ball. I like Brandon Cooks this year. PPR, I think he's even better, but if you're just in a standard league, I think he's a very solid wide receiver too. Top high-end wide receiver too. Next guy we'll talk about is Jordan Matthews. What do you like about him, Jordan Matthews?
I just like his size. He's a big receiver. Obviously, had great career in the SEC. And I think that Chip Kelly really likes his big receivers. That's why I think he got rid of Deshaun Jackson. And Jordan Matthews had a good rookie campaign his first year. Now Jerry Matthews on. Jordan Matthews is going to step into that leading role as a pass catcher for Philly. And I'm excited to see what he can do in that role. And I think he could have a huge year this year.
Yeah, I think Matthews could have a good year. Do you like Jordan Matthews?
I like Jordan Matthews for a lot of reasons. One being the size, like Sales mentioned. He did have a lot of good weeks last year. I don't know how Sam Bradford's going to do, though. I don't really, he hasn't played in 2 years, but it's true.
The next guy we'll talk about is Charles Johnson.
Charles Johnson, he's like a stretch sleeper. Like, I think he has a lot of good weeks where he could break out. And I like Teddy Bridgewater. They really don't have an established like #1 guy. Like Cordero Patterson was supposed to be this next big thing. He hasn't really panned out. They could trade it for Mike Wallace. So I think Charles Johnson could have a big year, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think it's all just dependent on who becomes the #1 target there.
Yeah.
I like Bridgewater, so I think whoever's the #1 target will really flourish. And then the final wide receiver we're going to talk, or 2 more wide receivers. The next guy we'll talk about, Jarvis Landry. To me, Jarvis Landry just fitting in that Miami offense, I think could really be a key for him. We have a lot of second-year wide receivers on this list, obviously, so I think he's another one that's just going to really play well. He's the #1 threat in that offense.
He's got to be.
Yeah, and I think Ryan Tannehill just will be able to have a great season, I think.
Yeah,
I know you love Tannehill.
Yeah,
so Jarvis Landry, I think, is probably a low-end wide receiver, too. But that's much higher than most people would have him. Most people have him as a wide receiver 3. If you can get him on your team as a low-end wide receiver 2, I think he can produce 900 yards and maybe like 9 touchdowns. I think it's a solid season for him. And then the final guy we'll talk about is Nuke, DeAndre Hopkins. What do you like about him?
I love Nuke this year. I think he's really developed into a great pass catcher. With the absence of Andre Johnson, he becomes the #1 target in that offense. And he's just developed well. I think he has a chance to be a wide receiver 1 this year. Really solid wide receiver 1. Just the way he's playing down for the Texans. And I love him. I saw him in Clemson. I saw what he could do. He just has the ability to win matchups.
Does the quarterback situation bother you at all or worry you?
A little bit, but I think people can still succeed with questionable quarterbacks. You see guys like AJ Green do well.
Josh Gordon.
But come on, Andy Dalton's more skilled than Brian Hoyer.
Well, I don't know. I do think Hopkins is a little scary, in my opinion. I would take him as a low-end wide receiver, too. I just think he's kind of question marked because Andre Johnson was always the man there. Can Hopkins be that wide receiver one? I don't think
he's going to get double teamed now, too. So.
Yeah, and they don't have another. I know you mentioned Cecil Shorts. And
they have Jalen Strong.
I'm fearful of him, but to you, I see why he can be a sleeper. I'm just fearful. That's all. And then we'll move on to tight ends now. We've got 3 here. First one we'll talk about is Austin Seferian-Jenkins.
See, now I'm kind of concerned about this pick because they just got Tim Wright back, and he was and he's used to that offense because the Patriots got him for last year, and he actually produced pretty well for the Patriots touchdown wise when they would use him and Gronk on the red zone, and I think he's a red zone threat. The thing is, Austin Seferian-Jenkins is huge, and I think if they use him like they did in New England, like how they use Gronk and him, I think they'll both benefit. And I don't know. I think one of them will have a more beneficiary season in that offense with Winston.
Jenkins has to be the man there, though. I mean, I know Tim Wright's coming in, but Seferian-Jenkins was like their top tight end a few years ago, so he's got to be the man.
He did not have a good season.
Yeah, he did. So. No rookie tight end does. Eric Ebron, Jason Morrow. I mean, you can't expect that from a rookie tight end. And then the next guy
Jenkins is also just such a good athlete too. I mean, his athleticism purely can just beat defenders.
Yeah,
they got a lot of tall wide receivers / tight ends on that team.
Yeah. The next tight end we'll talk about, the Seidels is in love with him, Josh Hill.
I think he could really step into Jimmy Graham's role. Not quite as good as Jimmy Graham, obviously, but he's a great player in my opinion. And after watching him at Idaho State a couple times, I saw him in a bowl game. He's a big guy, can catch passes, and Drew loves his tight end. So I think he can really step up and have a good season. Not like Jimmy Graham, but close to it.
Where do you have him ranked among tight ends? Just curious.
I have him at about 5. Not obviously the best tight end, but I think he'd have a really solid year.
That's bold. Okay, well there's probably your.
Don't they have another tight end, Benjamin Watson?
Yeah, they do actually have him there. Josh Hill's probably going to be the pass catcher, but still, Benjamin Watson. I'm still fearful that 2 tight end sets, except in New England, don't often work. A la
watch for the Buccaneers. Watch for the Buccaneers. They could implement it.
Yeah. And then the last guy we'll talk about is Dwayne Allen. I just like Dwayne Allen because in the offense that he's in, he's going to probably be the 3rd option there. I know Kobe Fleener's there. I understand that. They've got young wide receivers, Philip Dorsett, Dante Moncrief.
T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah, but I'm just mentioning the guys that could take away his third option. But Dwayne Allen, I think, he's a really solid athlete. He actually had, I believe, 5 touchdowns last year in limited play. I could be wrong on that. I might have to check that later. But Dwayne Allen, I think, is a better player than Kobe Fleener. I think Kobe Fleener's kind of Andrew Luck's ragtag, keep him around kind of guy from Stanford. I think Dwayne Allen, if he can stay healthy, which he hasn't done in quite a while, I think Dwayne Allen, if he stays healthy on the field for his full 16-game season, I think he'll really play well and be probably a good, I would say take him as a tight end, maybe like the 7th or 8th tight end off the board. I think he should be around there. So I really like Dwayne Allen.
Where's Fleener on yours?
Fleener would probably not be in the top 15. I don't think that. I think Fleener, he actually had a solid season last year, but that was because Dwayne Allen was not playing a lot. I just think Allen's the more potential. He has more potential than Dominic. And then, thank you.
When I look at the 2.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, when I look at the 2, I see Kobe Fleener as more of the pass catcher yardage-wise, and Dwayne Allen as more of the red zone touchdown guy. So I don't really see any as either of them as your main tight end. Just because they'll kind of take away from each other.
But okay, but I think if that logic were to come into play, I think someone like Antonio Gates proves that being a touchdown guy, very reliant, can actually be a helpful thing. I think Gates didn't have a lot of good yardage games, but his tight ends were there, and that really helped him out. So I think if we base it off that logic, I think Allen could actually have a really nice season. But yes, thank you, folks. That will wrap up our sleepers and undervalued at Your Fantasy Nerd. You can actually check more out at yourfantasynerd.com. Go ahead and comment what you guys think, subscribe, and as always, like us.
And follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter. What's our Twitter handle?
FF_nerd.
Nice. All right. Thanks for watching, folks.